that we saw on your timeline that you ended up tweeting out. And I thought it was a very interesting interesting twist to the whole quarterback conversation. By the way, hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Saw you tweet yesterday. What I keep hearing now is that people will be partially right and partially wrong on the quarterback situation. Who knows what's true? But what I've been told is that the Bears are looking to trade both the number 1 and Justin Fields and draft one of the other QBs after the trade down. This is interesting because on this show we have a saying. It literally just goes or right, because that's the other scenario that none of us were expecting. So, Greg, can you go a little bit more in depth on that as you set the world on fire? What's going on with that?
I don't know, I set the world on fire. The phones. I'm on the phone all day this time of the year, and there's a lot of people that want to give me a hard time on Twitter, which is fine. They can take every shot they want, but
your success.
I've been doing this for 40 years. I know what I'm talking about. So
I like that.
And I got connections up the yin yang. I mean, there's a dozen GMs I can pick up the phone and talk to, and a bunch of other guys in decision-making roles. So I've got a lot of friends in the league and other people with connections. I was talking to one guy who I guess indirectly is involved in the league. He's not an agent. He's not a media guy, but he's very well connected, and I just don't want to say who he is. And generally, he's got excellent information. So in the course of the conversation I had with him, the first one was Monday, and then there was another one the next day. Monday, he says that deal, they're going to trade number 1 before the combine's out, and it's going to Washington. And I can believe that. And he said it's going to be, pretty much the same as Peter King had, that, at least one number 2, a flip of the ones, and a 1 next year. This guy said both of Washington's number 2s. And I said, I can't see that happening before, within the next week. Right. I said, if it happens at all, I just can't see it happening. He goes, there's other teams that want to do something. And this was brought up today, I think on the NFL Network. Everybody's waiting for Chicago to do something, one way or the other. And they, it's like they can't make their move until the Bears make their move. And so it's, that's an interesting, a scenario. Hey, look, who knows what's true? Right. But I know from, I've been in these positions where you're sitting and you want to, you're playing poker, and you got to have the good bluff face when you're playing this game. And so it's not what you're saying, it's you better read between the lines. Yeah. Because it's more about, okay, if like Poles talks about openly, well, I want to do things right by Justin. Well, of course he's going to say that, because if you want to get something big from Washington, you got to make it look like you're going to take Caleb no matter what. Yeah. Okay. And you're moving. So if Washington really wants him, and from what I understand, they really want him. So you got to pay. And from what I've been told, they know they got to pay. Will the deal be made? Who the hell knows? But then the other part that I was told the next day is that, and again, same person, is that there is scenarios, he goes, that I'm hearing where they actually do both. And trade Justin and trade number 1 and still take a quarterback after they trade down. Yeah. And, people have say it, within the business, it's not a lock with Caleb. It's not about his talent. It's about everything else. It's the intangibles. And I'm not going to get into a lot of that stuff right now. If a trade is made, I'll say some of the information I got, but I got a ton. And it doesn't, knowing what polls and what Flus say, like Flus said, they asked Flus on Monday, what are you looking for in a quarterback? The first thing he said was leadership.
Yeah.
Very first word. Well, that's the one thing that Caleb Williams doesn't have. That's like the worst part of him. And it's, he's more of a follower than a leader. And so,
no punches.
And it's just a lot of little things that you say, is he going to be able to handle it? And then you listen to, again, little things that Ryan says. Tough job play quarterback in this city. We all know that.
Oh, yeah.
Because they'll line you up. I mean, it's the St. Valentine's Massacre every week. So, if you're not playing great, they're going to line you up against the wall and blow you away. So you got to be thick-skinned. Okay, now we got a guy that had a tough loss and cries on mama's lap for the next 10 minutes in front of a national audience. Is that a thick-skinned guy? Is that a guy that can handle adversity in the NFL? And don't forget, he's already a multimillionaire.
Right.
He's going to take a pay cut on a rookie contract.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see what Caleb ends up doing in it. And if Ryan gleans from his interviews, I believe they're supposed to be interviewing tonight. Kid, you had one?
No, they interviewed
or last night.
Caleb last night.
Yeah, last night. Kid,
and you'll never know what happened in that interview.
Greg P. Kid here. Listen, thanks for coming by. You are someone who I admire. You come in unbrazen, wanting all the smoke, and you've done a nice job really riling up the city over the last couple of weeks. One thing in particular is I've listened to a lot of your stuff. You did mention your take on it. You didn't say Caleb wasn't going to be a good bad pro. You just said that he wasn't someone you would take number one, and even entertain the idea of not picking up Justin's fifth-year option, but making him earn it. Right. With this new information you've kind of shared with us and things of that nature, who would you, if you had the opportunity, who would you take? Just for our audience, I've kind of heard your take on it. Who would you take? And then ultimately, how would you want that to play out? If it's
totally done between the two, one name might surprise you. There's a lot of people within the league that love this guy. He hasn't turned on the analysts yet. And one is the local kid, J.J. McCarthy. And the other is Daniels from LSU. Mm-hmm. And, JJ, I got a good friend who is a former coordinator in the league and, very, very highly regarded guy. He said he thinks the best quarterback in this class is JJ. So I respect his opinion. He goes, the problem with JJ is, and this is exactly the way he said it. Problem with JJ is he had an offensive coordinator who called plays like an offensive lineman. And he goes, if he had somebody who knew how to call plays, that guy lighted up. And that's a quote. And, you can't downplay or criticize a guy for the offense he was in because that's not his fault.
Right.
But he ran that Michigan offense superbly, won a national championship with him, Big Ten championship last year. I think he's lost one game in the last 2 years. The guy's a player. And let me just finish.
Go ahead.
He what people say about him, I don't know the kid, but he is coming on my show. I got his agent to commit to that after the Michigan Pro Day, which is going to be like around the 20th or 21st.
Okay.
But what everybody says is he's going to blow coaches away this week with his intellect. And they get him on the board and he starts diagramming and stuff. And his football knowledge and his ability to understand and to comprehend things is just going to blow people away.
It's going to be interesting because the thing I've said about J.J. McCarthy is he wasn't called upon to do a ton, but when his name was called, he always produced. Very rarely did we see those plays where it was like, oh, well, J.J. didn't live up to the moment right then. So he's somebody who we've all said on the show that we feel that Harbaugh is going to walk in the room and be like, listen, I love this Justin Herbert guy, but let me try to sell you on J.J. McCarthy.
You know what? He's the head coach. You don't have to, and he was hired before the GM. You don't have to sell anybody.
He's not selling nothing. It's all about what he wants to do.
That's right.
Greg, we appreciate you coming on the show. We appreciate you tuning in and showing love with us. Let the people know where they can find you, and you've let them know a little bit of what you got coming up, but let them know what's coming next for you.
Well, we got some interesting shows coming up. Future guest lineup. Peter King's coming on in 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, nice.
I wanted to get Peter. I've known Peter since Peter was a beat writer for the Giants when I was working for the Giants. This goes back into the mid 80s. He worked for Newsday. So I've known him a long, long time. And he's coming on in 2 weeks. He said next week he's going to be out in Seattle visiting his daughter. So he'd do it in 2 weeks. After the combine, we've got Daniel Jeremiah on, who's been a longtime friend, and Dane Brugler from The Athletic. We got JJ, as I said, coming on sometime after the Michigan Pro Day. So that's what I've got lined up so far. And, I don't want to go out too far, but because you got to do some stuff just in preparation for the draft and free agency and all that.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, Greg. Friend of the show. Welcome anytime. And we hope to have you back on here soon. Maybe after the combine breaks down, we can get some more of that insight on what you saw from them.
Sounds good, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Have a good one, man. Appreciate you.
Take care,
Thanks,
Greg. Appreciate you.
Greg Gabriel, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely amazing guest. Love having Greg on. Love everything. Oh, we clap it up. We clap it up. Clap it up for Greg. Clap it up for Greg. Clap it up for Greg. All right, clap it up. Clap it up.
Applause.